To keep society free, we must speak. The First Amendment is fundamental to our freedom, and the exercise of it can make us fully human. But what about those who feel limited by not having total control over their speech, religious beliefs, freedom of press, petitioning, and the freedom to peaceably assemble? Get it together, people. You're an American, which means that the First Amendment is yours, so use it. Get ready for the Wabash Democracy and Public Discourse Initiative on Counterpoint with Garrard McClendon. Thank you for joining us on Counterpoint. Hey, give me a call at 844-777-9311. Tweet me at GerardMC and send Facebook comments to Counterpoint Gerard. Joining me at the Counterpoint, Professor of Rhetoric and Director of the Wabash Democracy and Public Discourse Initiative, Dr. Sarah Drury. Student Democracy Fellows, Michael Lumpkin and Anthony Douglas. Welcome to the Counterpoint, you guys.
Well, thanks, Gerard.
Oh, man, I so appreciate all of you being here. Anthony, Michael, Dr. Drury. This is exciting to me for more reasons than we'll get into a little bit later. But first, let me start with you, Dr. Drury. You're at Wabash College. You're a professor, all-male institution. First of all, I got to hear your story. How did you end up at Wabash College?
Well, so I'm an assistant professor of rhetoric at Wabash, and the first part of the story is that, when you're applying for jobs, right, you're looking at different colleges, and for me, I was looking for a small liberal arts college. I was looking for a place where I could work closely with undergraduate students, involve them in my research, and I was also looking for a place where I could bring together the rhetorical theories that I study and think about putting those into practice. And when the job at Wabash came up, and this is a true story, my advisor called me and he said, "This is the type of school you want to be at. You need to apply for this job." And I said, I was already applying for it. But I was lucky enough then to go through the interview process, and it was a fit on both sides. I think they're really passionate about taking what we do in the classroom and transforming it into applied practice.
It's definitely a different type of institution. It's not 30 or 40,000 students there. There are no ladies there in the classroom. So it's a little bit different experience. I'm going to go to Anthony next. Anthony, how did you end up at Wabash College, man? Anthony, you could have gone anywhere. You're a scholar. You could have gone to Notre Dame, Stanford, Ivy League. Why Wabash College? How do you end up there, Anthony?
Well, honestly, it really attests to the alumni network at Wabash College. I had a friend of mine who, also a friend of my father's, who reached out to me and said, Wabash College is an amazing school, and you need to at least apply and check it out. And through all the schools I applied to probably 10 different schools, and came on a visit. It felt like home. And the financial aid really helped me out, and Wabash really does a good job of making it financially possible for students to attend there, and I got there and I loved it. So,
Anthony Douglas, thank you for that. Michael Lumpkin, Wabash College, man, private, all-male, liberal arts institution in the middle of Crawfordsville, Indiana. How does Michael Lumpkin end up at Wabash College?
Yes, well, being an Indiana native for myself, I'd always heard of Wabash. Being in Indiana, you're always around those that are from Wabash are successful in your community. The community I'm from, Muncie, Indiana, we had a lot of successful Wabash guys. We still do, that make up kind of the workforce in Muncie. And for me, what Anthony said with regards to it feeling like home really hits with regards to my experience as well. With going, you meet professors and you sit in on a class and you really feel as if, you as an individual, you are one that the professor really cares about, and the professor is genuinely concerned with your success and your well-being. And that's just not something you find on every campus, and it's something that you really can't take for granted. And that has absolutely rang true so far in my first couple of years at Wabash.
Wabash, it's definitely a unique experience. A lot of larger institutions, you're not even taught by a PhD. You're taught by a TA. You're taught by someone who may be finishing up their master's. But at Wabash College, you're getting taught by some of the finest scholars in the world right there in central Indiana. Can speaking create a free society? Now, I have to ask the professor this, and then I'll defer to the gentleman. What makes speech a creation of a free society? Is it possible, Dr. Drury?
It's the exchange of ideas. That without speech, we don't have the rigorous discussion of ideas. And the best ideas don't come to us fully formed. They emerge through rigorous conversation, through questioning, through debate, through discussion. And then we get to, right, how can our society move forward? How can we better ourselves? How can we progress and find the best solutions for problems that are facing us? And that all at the heart of that is speech. And free speech is important to that because you have to get the full marketplace of ideas out on the table and start weighing them and thinking about different options in order to get to that best idea.
You know, Michael, let's talk about some of the courses you've had and talk about the leadership of Dr. Drury. Can speech create a free society? Do you know more now than you did before you came to Wabash College as it pertains to speech?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I'm lucky enough to have Dr. Drury as the leader of this initiative, as well as someone I've had in class. So having that experience on both ends, I've learned an incredibly larger amount of just your voice as your tool, to exchange these ideas, to allow for, you to express your beliefs and, what we provide, and I know this will come up later in the show, I imagine, is a platform for that. And, for us to allow people to use their voice and to discuss their ideas, because, yes, that is what, creates a free society. You're able to use what you have, your voice, your ideas, your beliefs, your values, bring all those to the table and really express those and have them heard. And that's what I think creates freedom and what allows us to really live in a way we love to live. So.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I'm going to go to Anthony next. Anthony, we're in the United States of America, Anthony, and people still feel powerless. I mean, it's sad to see that some people feel as if they have no voice. And with the initiative, I think that you're seeing that. Do people feel powerless, Anthony?
I think oftentimes people do have that sense of that their voice doesn't matter. And I think the work we do with the initiative helps empower people and makes them feel that their voice means something. A lot of times in the conversations we've had, there may be an unpopular view, but through our work, we validate that unpopular view by telling everyone that their voice matters and that we should consider the benefits and the trade-offs to what they're saying. So I think some of the work that we're doing, the conversations that are being had because we have free speech, allows for people to feel like their voice does matter.
Voices mattering. Dr. Drury, do poor people really matter? Can rhetoric help poor people? Can rhetoric help powerless people? What good is my voice if I don't have any money or any power?
I think, you're identifying a tough tension in our political society, certainly historically, also obviously in more recent political discussions and today. But I think the United States of America, with the protection of free speech for all citizens, we have a rich history of lower socioeconomic classes being able to use speech to discuss new ideas, to protest, to bring forth their critiques, right, of the institutional power that's working against them. And, you can look to things like the progressive era, right? And this is why, for me, studying the history of speech in the United States is as important as practicing, free and robust speech as I do with the students in the initiative, because we have a history of people in this country, right, using speech to accomplish political change, and that's exciting.
It's extremely exciting. The word rhetoric, and I've got to close this segment out. Please define the word rhetoric for us, Doctor.
Well, I could go with the Aristotle definition, which is the available means of persuasion, right? But I think rhetoric's more expansive than that. So rhetoric is the way that we use verbal and nonverbal symbols to influence, to create meaning, to persuade an audience.
Wow. And do you think, gentlemen, that you've learned more about rhetoric in your classes thus far?
Without question,
Yeah. We're going to get into this more in the second half. I'm excited, and we're going to bring on a third student in the next segment as well. So I'm really excited. Dr. Drury, I want to thank you so much for being with us and for bringing these august gentlemen down to the Lakeshore Public Media Studios to discuss this topic. You know, I'm going to move now to when was the last time you exercised your First Amendment? Hey, here are some comments from Facebook. Burnell Chase says, amen, Gerard. Freedom of speech is a civil right. Rita Moy says, yes, freedom of speech is very important. We just need to look around the world. Even today, citizens of other countries can be persecuted by their government if they speak or express an opposing view. Raymond Dick says, it is with some limitations. I cannot yell fire in a crowded place when there is no fire. So yes, we have free speech, but there are limits. Hey, voice your concerns and we the people, and give me a call. Leave a message at 844-777-9311. Tweet me at GerardMC and send Facebook comments to Counterpoint Gerard. We'll be back shortly. Tweet me, post on Instagram, or send me a message on Facebook. Let's start the conversation. Your voice is important on Counterpoint. Welcome back to Counterpoint. For the second half, we have Wabash Democracy and Public Discourse Fellows. We've got Michael Lumpkin, Anthony Douglas, and Jack Kellerman. Gentlemen, thanks for staying with me, and it looks like we have a newbie, Jack Kellerman. Jack, thanks for coming on Counterpoint, man.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, I asked the other gentleman this question. How do you end up at Wabash College, man? You could have chosen any other school.
Yeah, excellent question. For me, it was, I think Anthony touched upon this, the alumni. A lot of the alums I've met, anytime I wear a t-shirt or say, you know, I'm thinking about Wabash College when I was going through high school, they always like, oh, you're thinking about it? Here's my business card. If you ever want to go to a football game, anything, have any questions, talk to me. And just that care of trying to make good men better really attracted me to the college, and I've seen nothing but that on campus and all. So
this is good. And you know, I want to move forward with the conversation because when it comes to being young men at an all-male institution, you've got choices to do other things in terms of your academics as well as extracurricular. So you've got athletics, you've got glee club, pre-med club, science club. Out of all things to do at Wabash College, why be a democracy fellow? You know, what's sexy about that? Talk to me, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what the Democracy Fellows has provided us and the Discourse Initiative as a whole has provided us is the opportunity as an undergraduate to make a difference in the community around you, on your campus, and then in other places around the United States that we've been lucky enough to travel to. I feel like every place we go, we open up new doors, opportunities for people to discuss issues that are very important to them. On a new platform, on a new level, and that's not something that the average undergraduate gets the opportunity to do. Be able to make a distinct impact on different communities, to do something larger than yourself, to really represent the Wabash name as a whole off your campus is something that is to us, I think, is sexy about the Wabash Democracy and Public Discourse Initiative.
Oh man, so we just made, I'm moving my shoulders. We just made rhetoric sexy. So I'm gonna ask Anthony Douglas here. Anthony, some of the initiatives that you've done so far, first of all, let's look at what facilitation is. What does that mean to facilitate a discussion?
So usually at these conversations, you have people with all types of stakes in the issue, and they have concerns, and those concerns sometimes are similar and sometimes they're different. And so when they come to the conversation, typically these people have kind of thoughts of what they need, what should be the solution to their problem. And so as a facilitator, you take all these concerns and these stakeholders, you help them consider others' ideas at the conversation, and at the same time help them weigh the benefits and the trade-offs of other people's ideas and their own ideas. And it's not necessary for them to come to an agreement, but more of an educated decision on what's the most feasible solution to our problem right now. So facilitation is really about, it takes a lot of tact and working with people and helping them realize, hey, you have a great idea. We need to consider other people's ideas at the table, and let's bring these together to come to a solution.
If only all of society could do what you gentlemen are doing. So let's get right into this. Child care in Montgomery County, the Pocket Park, Value Your Voice, and University of Delaware. Jack Kellerman, which of these initiatives did you work on?
I worked on the University of Delaware one, the Pocket Park, as well as the Value Your Voice.
Let's go with Value Your Voice first. What was that and what did you accomplish?
So with the Attorney General's office, we kind of took a partnership and we together kind of wanted to get more engagement in the community. So we identified some problems in a report we read and kind of say, all right, let's bring it to a community. Let's see what the millennials think, how they see problems with civic engagement. How can they become more civic engaged? So.
Talk to me, Michael. What initiatives did you work on?
Yeah, so similar to Jack, I was on the Value Your Voice event with the Indiana Attorney General's office. I went to University of Delaware and partnered with their university, and then I was one of the members of the child care forum.
Talk to me about child care in Montgomery County. What was the impetus of that?
Yeah, so the child care is just a complex issue in Montgomery County, which is a problem that many smaller manufacturing type communities face with regards to being able to provide adequate care for individuals like third shift workers, individuals who don't make necessarily the income required to afford quality child care. And that's a problem that Montgomery County had been plagued with for many, many years. So our goal was to create a dialogue, a situation where individuals, stakeholders like Anthony referred to earlier, can come in from anyone from the manufacturing community to childcare providers to the school systems. I could go on with many different people that were involved. But it all gave them the opportunity to discuss their stake and their side in the issue and how we can then go forward and try to make the situation better.
This is good because I want to move to University of Delaware next with you, Anthony. Facilitating discussion. People don't talk in a civil manner anymore, do they? They're yelling and screaming. Internet is ridiculous. Presidential candidates are ridiculous. Anthony Douglas, University of Delaware. I, too, am Wabash. You take that initiative to University of Delaware. What happened at the University of Delaware?
So a little background, the University of Delaware was having a lot of issues with just diversity and race relations on campus, and they really needed a way to talk about that. They didn't really have the medium to have a discussion or the skills to facilitate a discussion on it, because sometimes conversations on race and privilege and diversity can get a little heated. And so we came not too long ago to that campus and we held a conversation about race and diversity and what are some steps of action to address diversity on their campus and how can they increase inclusivity for students of color on their campus. And so we ran that conversation and students gave us a lot of feedback about how powerful that conversation was and how they wish they had that kind of medium or a way to talk about those issues on their campus.
So you gentlemen, as well as the other fellows at Wabash College, you're not coming in and telling people this is what you need to do.
No.
All right, because you're wrong and you're uneducated and you don't have any money and you need to listen to us because we're college boys. You're not coming in there like that? No. So Jack Kellerman, how do you initiate these conversations? What's the method?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of Anthony Douglas kind of said, this facilitator, he's supposed to take a neutral stance. He's supposed to kind of set the ground rules to, show respect for other people's opinions, kind of voice when you have a concern so we can, bring that tension and say, all right, so why do you feel this tension? Kind of weigh the two sides and come to a better consensus. So you really make sure that everybody's voice is included. You make sure if somebody, is struggling to voice their opinion, you make sure that the space is open for them to voice their opinion.
An open space, Michael. Is it possible to remain neutral, man?
Oh, absolutely.
We all have opinions, Michael. Come on, man. We all judge people. Is it possible to facilitate and remain neutral?
It absolutely is. It's a skill set. It's not something that's you have from day one, but through the teachings through the rhetoric classes at Wabash and through continued practice on facilitation through this organization, we've been able to become very skilled at the art of staying neutral. And it's just very important to note that we are nothing more than individuals that provide a setting, an open space, like you mentioned, to allow people to have these opportunities to discuss and share, ideas freely, and go beyond the surface level conversations. Really go into deep conversation that can make a difference, especially when people are, when things are happening on campuses like University of Delaware that are polarizing and are not easy to discuss. That doesn't mean the discussions don't need to be had, but rather that they need to be had in a setting that we can provide on a platform that allows people to kind of go deeper than, with just your surface level conversations.
Anthony Douglas, let's talk about the actual way in which you facilitate. So there's a note taker and there's a facilitator. How does that work?
Yeah, so typically we like to have 2 people at each table, one to note take and one to facilitate. And usually we have a guide prepared. So we do our research on the problem before we get there. And then we make a guide that typically sometimes can have solutions in it. And they're typically broad solutions, so people can make of it how they want to. They take that solution and they get the specifics for that solution. Or sometimes it's a guide that helps them generate their own actions. And so we have that sheet, and that's kind of a guide for us to walk them through the conversation, help them consider both benefits and trade-offs to everything that they're suggesting.
So you gentlemen are still undergrad. What year are you, Michael?
Currently finishing up my sophomore year.
Sophomore year as well.
Jack's a sophomore.
Junior.
Anthony's a junior. You gentlemen talk like grown men. I mean, grown man, with this amazing rhetoric and thought process that just impresses me to no end. Let's talk about enduring questions. Was that a class that you guys had? Yeah. Enduring questions, or is it on masculinity? What's that about? Somebody want to jump in?
Yeah, so a professor came to us and wanted to have a conversation about masculinity, especially at Wabash, with it being a very competitive single-sex institution. She wanted students to think about how do you define masculinity in the 21st century. And so those students, she came to us, she asked us to put together a guide to guide a conversation on masculinity and then facilitate that. And so it really wasn't one of those conversations where you need a solution, but you want guys to think about what does masculinity mean in the 21st century.
I like that. First year gentleman's mind. Did anyone have that class as well? Let's talk about the gentleman's code or the gentleman's rule. Wabash College only has one rule. A lot of universities, they can't believe it. They've got this long policy list of rules. Wabash College, you have to do what, gentlemen? Talk to me, Jack.
You have to carry yourself as a gentleman on and off campus at all given times. So,
is that possible? Come on, Michael. To have a campus with one rule, it seems like the campus would be in chaos.
Right. Well, I think from day one, I think the gentleman's rule just encompasses Wabash as a whole, and that, that's one rule, but it really provides the basis for what your Wabash experience is going to be, and it's going to be exactly what you make it. And the first thing that, governs you as a gentleman of Wabash is that you act like a gentleman, and you behave, in a manner that respects the college, respects yourself, and presents the image that that you should as a gentleman of Wabash. And this is a great initiative because it allows us to portray that on a greater level.
So you're not only getting assignments within Indiana, you guys have gone interstate. University of Delaware said, we need the gentleman at Wabash College to help us out with this particular crisis. So what have you learned from being in this initiative? Let's start with Anthony.
The skills I've gained from the initiative are extremely transferable. I want to go to medical school one day, and I realized from working in this initiative that there will always be problems and there will always be a need for problem solving. And having these skills to sit people around the table who have different views and points of views and help them think about each other's options, help them think through that problem, and eventually lead to a solution that maybe not everyone agrees on, but it has everybody's concerns addressed. I think that's a huge skill that can be used whether you're in the family room, in the business office, or in the doctor's office.
Jack Kellerman, what have you learned?
Absolutely. I think since we're all social beings, we always have disagreements. We have to learn to live together. So with these disagreements, facilitation, those kind of techniques I've learned have really given me the tools to kind of equip myself with in conversing in the fraternity house I live in or within my own household back home that if something is disagreeable, why? How do we get through that? How do we come to a better consensus? Maybe not an all-agreeable solution.
Yeah, I'm loving this. I've got just a few seconds. Michael Lumpkin, what have you learned from being in the initiative?
Yeah, I've learned great leadership skills and the ability to, lead a conversation effectively and just help out problems in communities, make them better and improve the lives of others around me. So.
Yeah. So you're going to be finishing up at Wabash College here in a year or 2 years. This is fantastic. I wish you 3 gentlemen the best. Tell the rest of the fellows at Wabash College that I said hello as well. This is profound, and I'm sure that your initiative is going to get a lot more work. There's a lot of communities that need the help that you guys can offer.
Thank you.
Bob Marley said, get up for your rights. So exercise your freedom of speech and start speaking to keep a free society. Hey, thanks to my guests from Wabash College, Dr. Sarah Drury, Michael Lumpkin, Anthony Douglas, and Jack Kellerman, for joining me at the Counterpoint. Give me a call, 844-777-9311. Tweet me at Garrard MC and comment on Facebook at Counterpoint Garrard. As always, stay positive, keep your head up, and always be encouraged to voice your counterpoint. Have a great week.
Free speech, extremely important to be able to share my views and opinions and to also provide a platform for other people who follow me to share their views and opinions as well.
Freedom of speech is so important. That's why they put the First Amendment in there. Shout out to everybody that grew up in the era of hip-hop.
I think freedom of speech also provides a balance when some might feel others have abused that freedom.
Gerard, this is Waylon, man. I just had to call in on the topic of freedom of speech. It's very important for all of us to be able to voice our opinion.
I believe freedom of speech is an essential element of any democracy or any civilization. It is the basic fabric of human existence, I believe.
I think that free speech allows for the truth to surface and to prevail. Free speech is a safeguard against the abuse of power.
Freedom of speech is our most fundamental constitutional right because every idea starts with speech. Without the idea and without the freedom of speech to express the idea, then no change will be able to be made because ideas lead to change. And those who are at the bottom are the ones who need change the most.